The only reason my kids are still alive is a stupid laminated sheet of house rules taped to the fridge in that rental. I keep thinking about that, like if I just laughed and ignored it, I'd be visiting 2 small graves right now instead of telling you this. We planned this perfect small-town Christmas. Week of the 24th through New Year's back in my hometown. Big old house on the outskirts, room for everyone. My wife, our 2 kids, my sister, her husband, they're 3. 9 people total, 1 chaotic pile of cousins and wrapping paper. 2 days before Christmas Eve, my sister called me, voice shredded. "We're out," she said. "All of us. We've been throwing up all night. I'm not putting you through this." So just like that, her family was gone from the plan. Non-refundable booking. My wife and I looked at each other in the kitchen with the email confirmation open between us. Kids in the living room arguing over a cartoon. "We're still going," she said finally, rubbing her eyes. "You know they're gonna hate you forever if you cancel the Christmas pageant." Yeah, I admitted. Persephone, our 7-year-old, had been drawing herself in an angel costume for weeks. Connor, 4, didn't care about the pageant, but he liked any excuse to wear pajamas publicly. We kept the plan. Then Christmas Eve morning, just as I was stuffing the last gift into a duffel bag, my wife's phone buzzed on the counter. That specific buzz. Her, "You're being summoned to hell" tone. She looked at the screen and her face shifted, nurse mode dropping down over the tired mom I'd been kissing 15 minutes before. "Donor match," she said. "They're bringing the liver in this afternoon. I have to go. Today." I knew it was a stupid question, even as it came out. They can't. They can't wait on a transplant, no. She was already towing her shoes on, scrunching her hair into a bun. "I told you they were close with a patient. This is it." I felt my jaw clench. "So we just cancel?" She hesitated at the door, eyes flicking toward the living room where the kids were arguing again. This time about who got the blue crayon. "You can still take them," she said. "I'll drive up in the morning. I'll be done by 8, 9 at the latest. I'll shower and leave straight from the hospital. It's only 3 hours. You'll be wrecked." "I'm already wrecked." She smiled without humor. "They've been talking about this for months. Don't punish them because I have to go carve cancer out of some guy's liver. That's not how liver transplants work," I muttered. She smacked my chest with the back of her hand. "I love you. Take them. I'll be there before Santa finishes his route." We argued for a few more minutes, but it was more about anxiety than logistics. I didn't like the idea of being alone in a strange house with the kids on Christmas Eve, but I also didn't want to be the dad who ruined Christmas because he was nervous. So I loaded the SUV by myself while she drove off to scrub in. The kids waved from the bay window like she was shipping out to war. By the time I pulled out of our driveway, the sky was that flat winter gray that looks like someone dragged a dirty sheet across heaven. The roads were clear, but there was frozen slush in the medians and dirty piles of old snow stacked up at the edges of parking lots. "Are we going to see the angel costumes?" Persephone asked from the back seat, kicking her sneakers against the back of my chair. "Yeah, honey. Pageant's at 6. We'll have plenty of time. Is Mommy going to make it?" "She'll be there in the morning," I said. "She's helping someone get better today." Connor was humming to himself, nose pressed against his window, fogging it up, wiping it clean with his sleeve, doing it again. "Is there snow at the new house?" he asked. "Probably a little," I said. "It's out near the woods." "Woods?" That caught his attention. "Like with animals? Maybe some deer, squirrels, and monsters," Persephone added. I looked at her in the rear view. "No monsters. Just old people who yell if you step on their lawn. Trust me, I grew up there." That made them laugh. It made me laugh too, but with a little knot underneath. Because I knew exactly which house we were going to. I picked it on purpose. The listing had popped up on my phone late one night a couple months ago. Renovated historic estate, sleeps 12. And the first picture was of that house. The house my sister and I used to bike past every summer, coasting just a little slower, trying not to look like we were looking. It sat back from the road, black shutters, 2 stories, big front porch. When we were kids, half the windows were boarded up and there was always some kind of gray sludge stain under the eaves like the house had been crying for too long. Nobody ever seemed to go in or out. We told each other stories about it, of course. Somebody had died there. Someone had killed someone there. There was a well in the back where a girl's body was hidden. Candles that burned without flames. Regular playground horror bullshit. I hadn't thought about it in years. And then that listing popped up with bright white interiors and a stupid farmhouse sink, and I booked it without even thinking. We turned off the main road onto the narrower, older one that wound up into the trees. I recognized little things. The leaning mailbox with the faded Barnhard on it. The place where the creek ran under the road, and the guardrail was always dented from someone wiping out on black ice. When we rounded the last curve, there it was. Holy crap, I said under my breath. The pictures hadn't lied. The house was repaired. Not just repaired, but surgically clean. New roof, crisp paint, fresh shutters, new porch railings. The sagging front steps, I remembered, were replaced with straight, wide ones. A wreath hung on the front door, but not a cute one. One of those Pinterest things with dried oranges and cinnamon sticks, like something from an expensive catalog. Whoa, Persephone breathed. It's so big. Connor went, we live here now, with the kind of certainty only a 4-year-old has. I parked by the side, where a gravel drive led back to a detached garage. There was another car already there, a little silver sedan with a magnet on the side. Celestial Stays Property Management with a cartoon key with wings. As I killed the engine, a woman stepped out from the front porch and waved. Dark green coat, gray scarf, blonde hair in a low ponytail. Mid-30s, maybe. She had that look of someone who's always running 10 minutes behind, but pretending not to be. Good afternoon, she called, stepping down as I wrestled myself out of the car. You must be the Armitages? Yeah, I said, stretching my back. That's us. Need any help with the bags? She asked, already reaching for the back hatch. I opened it and stared at the chaos I'd packed in there. 3 suitcases, a duffel, a grocery box, a plastic bin full of wrapped presents, and the kids' backpacks. Too much for one person, not quite enough for a dolly. If you don't mind grabbing a couple, I said. I kind of overdid it. No such thing at Christmas. She grabbed one of the suitcases like it weighed nothing. I'm Celeste, by the way. I manage the place for the owners. We spoke on the phone. Right, yeah. I hoisted the duffel onto my shoulder. This is Persephone, and this is Connor. Persephone unbuckled herself and then leaned over and unbuckled Connor, like she was his personal assistant. They hopped out, boots crunching on the frozen gravel. Persephone's eyes were huge. It looks like a movie house, she said. It used to be the creepy house, I told her. Your aunt and I used to ride past it and tell each other ghost stories about it. Her face lit up. Real ghost stories? Kid ghost stories, I said. We'll see if it's still creepy. Oh, you're from here? Celeste asked, falling into step beside me as we walked up the path. The lawn was mostly brown with some patches of crusted snow. Bare trees framed the property like black veins against the sky. Yeah, I said. Grew up like 10 minutes away. Haven't been back in a while, though. We climbed the porch steps. The boards didn't creak. That felt weird, more than it should have. In my head, this porch always groaned under your weight. The owners did a full gut and remodel, Celeste said, like she'd heard the thought. New roof, new insulation, all new wiring, windows, everything. This place was rough for a long time. They really brought it back from the dead. I forced a little laugh at her choice of words. She opened the door with a key and then stepped back, sweeping an arm. Welcome to your home for the week. The first thing that hit me was the temperature. That specific electric, forced air warmth that smells like dust and metal. Then the light. It was bright in there in a way that didn't fit my mental picture of the place. White walls, recessed lights, hardwood floors polished to a soft sheen. Some generic modern farmhouse furniture that probably came as a set. It looked like every other Airbnb in existence. Persephone ran past me with Connor trailing behind, both of them kicking boots off mid-run. Look at the stairs, she shouted. They go up and then turn. Don't run on the stairs. I called automatically. Celeste smiled. We kept as much of the original layout as we could, she said. But yeah, the owners wanted it to feel updated. People like light and bright. It's just different from how I imagined, I said. Different from your ghost stories? She grinned. Maybe a little, I admitted. She led me forward into the front room. This is the parlor, she said, with a little flourish. First thing the owners did was fix this room. It was basically a shell when they bought it. Fire damage. All of this is new. I looked around. There was a big sectional couch arranged around a coffee table, a wall-mounted TV pretending to be a painting, some abstract art that looked like someone had kicked a paint can. In the far corner, by the front windows, stood a Christmas tree. They'd actually done it. I'd half expected them to forget. There's your tree, Celeste said, per your request. We had someone bring it in this morning. It was tall, almost brushing the ceiling, fake but high quality, with white lights and simple red and gold ornaments. No family heirlooms, no handmade macaroni angels, but it looked pretty. Whoa, Connor said reverently. It's huge. Thank you, I told Celeste. Seriously, that's really nice. Of course. She smiled that practiced hospitality smile again. We like to make it special for families. Oh, and she pointed at the mantel. There, centered above the gas fireplace, was a heavy brass candelabra. Old-fashioned, ornate, 6 arms curling up like frozen flames. The candles in it were tall and used white tapers. That's original to the house, she said. One of the few pieces that survived. The owners wanted to keep a little bit of the old charm. Creepy charm, I said. Persephone had drifted over and was staring at it, nose wrinkled. It looks like it's from a haunted house, she said. Don't touch it, I warned automatically. Wax and kids don't mix. Celeste laughed. Actually, that brings me to something. She gestured toward the open doorway that led to the kitchen. There's a set of house notes on the fridge. Just some guidelines. Nothing crazy, but I do need you to read them. Sure, I said, already half distracted by the sight of my kids racing toward the staircase like 2 puppies. Hey, I yelled. Hold up. Boots off first. They skid to a stop, groaned, came back, kicked their boots fully off this time, then bolted again. Their laughter ricocheted off the high ceilings. They'll be fine, Celeste said. There's a baby gate you can use at the top if you want at night. Actually, she dug in her bag, pulled out a ring of keys, and detached one. Here's your copy. It does the front door and the back. Please don't lose it. Replacement's $50. I'll guard it with my life, I said, dropping it into my coat pocket. In the kitchen, the smell shifted to something like lemon cleaner over new wood. Bright white cabinets, big island, stainless steel appliances. On the fridge door was a laminated sheet held up by 2 novelty magnets shaped like little suns. House notes, it said at the top in a friendly sans serif font. Underneath were bullet points. Someone had tried to soften the tone with smiley faces that didn't quite help. I read them because she was watching me. Rule 1. Please keep the front and back doors locked after 5 p.m. even if you are home. This is for your safety as well as the integrity of the property. Rule 2. Do not leave interior doors open while you sleep, bedroom, bathroom, closet doors. Closed doors help maintain heat and are recommended fire safety practice. Rule 3. Never move the brass candelabra from the parlor mantel, and do not light the candles. It is for decoration only. Rule 4. If you hear voices, cries, or other unusual sounds coming from the woods after dark, please stay inside and call the property manager, Celeste, at the number below instead of investigating. Rule 5. Before going to sleep, please press the test button on the upstairs smoke detector to make sure it is functioning. This is required by our insurance policy. I read them twice, snorting at Rule 4. Is that serious? I asked. Celeste tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. We've had some break-ins out this way, she said. Teenagers drinking in the trees. Sometimes they get stupid and start shouting things. We'd rather you call us than go out in the dark and get into it with them. Liability and all that. Made sense, sort of. The wording, though, if you hear voices, that crawled under my skin. I tapped Rule 3. And this? The candelabra thing. She didn't smile that time. That's not optional, she said. It's heavy. It's antique. And an open flame near the tree is just a nightmare. Please leave it alone. Of course, I said. We're not going to be lighting ritual fires or anything. Her shoulders loosened. I know it seems strict. We just like to avoid problems. The owners are very particular. I nodded. Got it. No doors open, no candle parties, no chasing drunk teens into the woods. We can manage that. Persephone's head popped around the corner. Dad, can we look upstairs? Yes, I said. Just no running, I know, she said, rolling her eyes. Celeste stayed long enough to walk me through the thermostat, show me where the extra blankets were, and point out which closet had the fire extinguisher. Of course, there was a fire extinguisher. Of course, I barely glanced at it. Call me if anything's weird, she said at the end, standing in the entryway with her hand on the door. Really, I live 10 minutes away. Appreciate it, I said. She hesitated just a second. And press that smoke detector test tonight, okay? People forget. I'll do it, I promised. Then she was gone, and it was just us and the echo of our own footsteps in two big rooms. The house swallowed sound in a strange way. The kids were somewhere upstairs, shrieking with happiness. Their little sneakers thudded across the floor, up and down the hallway, doors opening and slamming. The noise bounced off the walls, then thinned out like the house was absorbing it. I hauled the rest of the bags inside, tossing them in the front hall for sorting. With my wife gone, there was nobody to coordinate anything, which meant everything turned into a slow-motion mess. I carried the present bin into the parlor and set it behind the couch, out of immediate sight. I'd wrap whatever still needed wrapping after the kids slept. Dad, Persephone yelled from upstairs. There's 2 sinks in 1 bathroom. It's called a double vanity, I shouted back. What's a vanity? Connor's voice added. It's where grown-ups stare at themselves, I said. That got loud giggles. Little things. Normal things. The kind of noise that makes you feel like you're doing okay as a parent. I took a minute in the parlor, just me and the tree and that stupid candelabra. Up close, you could see little scratches on its arms, the patina of real age. The tapers were pristine, unburned, wick still white. Without meaning to, I pictured them lit. Flickering, dripping wax down those arms. Shadows reaching up across the white ceiling. I shook it off and went to unpack. The afternoon blurred into tasks. Clothes in drawers, toothbrushes in bathrooms, the eternal argument about who got which bed in the upstairs kids' room. 2 twins with the exact same comforters, but somehow one was better. I made them a snack from the groceries I'd packed, texted my wife a photo of them, making faces at me from under a pile of pillows. She sent back, cute monsters. We're halfway through prep. I'll call you when we start sewing someone back together. I sent a laughing emoji and a heart. And then staring at those little icons on the screen, I felt a knife of loneliness slide between my ribs. I hadn't been alone with the kids in a place that wasn't our own house in a long time. At home, I knew where everything was. Here, everything felt borrowed. The pageant was at 6, like I'd told the kids. By 5, we were bundled up again, me herding them into coats and hats, and trying to locate 2 matching gloves for each small person as they whirled around me like dust devils. Can I wear my angel costume there? Persephone asked. You're not in the pageant, honey, I said. We're just watching. She deflated, but I practiced the song. You can sing it from your seat, I said. You'll probably do it better than the kids on stage anyway. She perked up a little at that. We drove into town as the sky darkened from gray to navy. Little houses had lights in the windows, fake candles in every sill. The downtown strip had garlands looped between the light poles and one of those giant inflatable Santas waving limply in the cold breeze. Inside the church, the air smelled like candles and old hymnals and a hint of mildew from wet boots. The kids sat on either side of me on the wooden pew, dangling their legs. They watched with rapt attention as a bunch of middle schoolers in bathrobes pretended to be shepherds and a toddler in a sheep costume picked his nose on stage. I stopped paying attention about halfway through. My brain wandered. I kept thinking about that house, the rule sheet, the way rule for had been worded. If you hear voices coming from the woods, not if you hear teenagers or if you hear noise. Voices. I told myself I was being dramatic. Liability. Insurance. That's all. Afterward, we got hot chocolate from a cart and burgers from the only place still open. The kids were wired and tired at the same time, which is a special hell. Connor almost fell asleep in his fries. Persephone kept trying to tell me everything she thought the pageant had done wrong. They used the wrong kind of star, and the baby doll was too big. Real babies are smaller, and the angels didn't even spin. You should direct it next year, I said. I will, she said seriously. I'm going to make it not boring. By the time we pulled back up the long drive to the house, it was full night. The porch light was on, a warm yellow pool in the darkness. The trees around the property had become a black wall. The wind had picked up, making them sway and creak. I felt it again, that old kid prickle at the back of my neck. The sense that the house wasn't alone out there. Inside, the furnace was running and the heat hit us in a wave. Our breath stopped fogging, our noses stopped stinging. I dumped her stuff by the door again and kicked my own boots off. Okay, I said, pajamas on, then we'll do cookies and cocoa, and then bed. Yes, both kids shouted. That was the plan, anyway. They ran up the stairs to change, giggling, tripping over each other. I went into the kitchen and started pulling out stuff for the cookies. Flour, sugar, eggs, butter. I was halfway through preheating the oven when my phone buzzed. Wife, going in. Love you. Kiss the gremlins for me. Don't let them set the place on fire. I snorted and typed, no promises. Then that last phrase stuck in my head, weirdly heavy. Don't let them set the place on fire. I shook it off and put the phone down on the counter. The warmth of the house, the long day, the heavy meal, it all hit me at once like a tranquilizer dart. Kids, I called. You get up there? No answer. Then a thump and a shared burst of cackling. Fine. They were alive. 10 minutes, I yelled. Then we do cookies. I didn't mean to lie. I really didn't. I thought I'd just lie down for a second. The master bedroom was at the end of the hall upstairs, across from the kids' room. King-size bed, white duvet, generic art on the wall. I sat on the edge of the mattress to unzip my boots and then made the mistake of letting myself stretch out for just a second. Their laughter was a steady, comforting noise somewhere in the house. Running down the hall, jumping off beds, doors opening and shutting. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, everything was darker. The room was dim, lit only by a soft glow from the hallway. My phone on the nightstand said an hour had passed. The house still hummed with heat and that slightly too loud silence of being somewhere new. But under it, I heard Connor's laugh. Hi, delighted, echoing from downstairs. From the parlor. I rolled off the bed, heart thumping, annoyed with myself. The kids were loose. I'd fallen asleep instead of being the responsible adult, and now they were probably using the TV as a trampoline. As I walked down the hall, I glanced toward their room. The door was half open. I saw a spill of lamplight across the carpet. Guys, I called. What are you doing? No answer. I pushed the door open with my knuckles. Persephone was on the bed, under the covers, lit by the cold glow of an iPad held inches from her face. Her hair was a messy halo around her head. She didn't even look up. I thought you were with your brother, I said, more sharply than I meant to. She shrugged one shoulder under the blanket. He wanted to keep playing, she said. I got tired. Downstairs, Connor laughed again. No, you didn't, he giggled. That would hurt too much. The back of my neck prickled. Who's he talking to? I asked. Persephone's brow furrowed. I don't know. He was talking when I left. I thought he was talking to you. Mom didn't get here early, did she? I asked. Persephone gave me one of those classic big kid looks, like she suddenly thought I was stupid. She's at the hospital, she said. You said, right? I muttered. Okay, stay here. I'm gonna go get him. And turn that down, okay? Don't wreck your eyes. She rolled her eyes but thumbed the volume lower. As I walked down the hallway toward the stairs, Connor's voice got clearer. It had that breathless edge kids get when they're really into a game. "I want to see," he said. "Show me again." A pause. I heard nothing else. Then he burst into laughter. "Stop, that's silly. You're silly." I stopped on the landing and listened. "Does it hurt?" he asked, then a tiny tilt in his tone. Curious. Concerned. "You shouldn't do that." The hair on my arms lifted. I told myself it was a cartoon. He'd turned on the TV. That's all. Maybe some obnoxious show with loud voices. Maybe he was echoing lines. I came around a newel post at the bottom of the stairs and stepped into the parlor. "Hey, little man, what are you?" He was alone, standing by the Christmas tree, hands halfway up like he'd been mid-gesture, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. No TV on, no tablet, nothing but him and the tree and the empty couch. He turned, saw me, and lit up. "Daddy." "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "Who were you talking to, buddy?" He blinked at me like he didn't understand the question. "I was just talking," he said. "Talking to who?" He opened his mouth to answer. Before he could, a scream ripped through the air outside. It was faint, muffled by walls and glass, but it ran along my spine like ice water. We both froze. Connor's mouth stayed half open. His eyes went wide and scared for the first time. From the stairs behind me, I heard the soft, rapid thuds of small feet. "What was that?" Persephone demanded, voice tight. I turned toward the front window. The world beyond the glass was night black, with the faint silhouette of trees against the sky that had gone from navy to ink. "I don't know," I said. The scream had been high and jagged, human in that way that cuts right through your brain's filters. It hadn't sounded like a fox or an owl. It had sounded like someone saying something. Someone in pain. "Help me." That's what it sounded like. I told myself again, teens in the woods. Drunk assholes. Shouting dares. It kind of sounded like someone said, "Help me." I heard myself say out loud. "Is somebody hurt?" Persephone asked. "I don't know," I repeated. My heart was hammering. I looked at my kids. I looked at the front door. Celeste's laminated sheet flashed in my mind. Rule 4. If you hear voices, cries, or other unusual sounds coming from the woods after dark, please stay inside and call the property manager. I should have just grabbed my phone then. I should have dialed. But there's something built into you, I think, something that hates the idea of ignoring a cry for help. "I'm just going to step out on the porch and see if I can tell where it's coming from," I said. "You two stay here, okay? Do not open the door. Don't go outside. Just sit on the couch and wait for me." "Dad," Persephone started. "I'm serious." I snapped sharper than I meant. "See? There. Don't move." She clamped her mouth shut. Connor scrambled up onto the couch and hugged a cushion to his chest. I went to the door, unlocked it, and opened it. Cold air slapped me in the face. It smelled like frozen dirt and distant smoke from someone's chimney, not ours. I left the door cracked behind me, so I'd be able to hear the kids, a wedge of warm yellow light spilling out onto the porch boards. The porch light buzzed faintly overhead. "Hello," I called into the dark. My breath blew out in white gusts. "Is somebody there? Are you okay?" The first layer of sound was the wind. It was stronger now, pushing through the tops of the trees, making them groan and rattle. Under that, I thought I heard something else. A ragged edge, like a sob. I stepped off the porch, boots grinding on the frozen path. The house's light fell away around me. Just a few more steps, I told myself. Just to the end of the walk. "Hello," I yelled again. "Do you need help?" This time, the scream came again. Further away. "Over here," it seemed to say, but it was stretched thin by distance, warped by the trees, turned almost airy by the wind. If I'd recorded it and played it back, I don't know what word I would have heard. But in the moment, my brain supplied meaning. Over here, I took a few steps off the driveway and into the rough strip of yard that bled into the woods. My feet crunched through thin snow and dead leaves. My lungs burned in the cold. The darkness between the bare trunks opened like a mouth. I stopped there, at the edge, the house behind me, pale and rectangular, lights glowing in some of the windows. The open front door a narrow slash of yellow. The wind hissed through the branches again. Somewhere in that noise, I thought I heard a broken syllable. A sobi. A plea. "Hey," I shouted. "Where are you? I can't see you. I've got kids inside, I can't go far. Just shout again so I can." Silence. Then, faintly, another scream. Further away, receding like whoever was running or being dragged deeper into the woods. Something in my gut flipped. That feeling came back. The one from when I was a kid biking past this place. Except now, it had words. "This isn't for you. This isn't your business. This is something else." All at once, I picture the parlor. The couch where my kids were supposed to be sitting, waiting like I told them. The Christmas tree. The fireplace. The candelabra on the mantle. The front door, hanging just barely open. I thought about Rule 1 on that stupid laminated sheet. Keep the front and back doors locked after 5 p.m. I suddenly, violently, did not want to stand out there anymore. "Fuck this," I muttered. "I'm calling someone." I turned back toward the house, my boots slipping a little on a patch of ice. My breath was loud in my ears. As I climbed the steps, I realized the wedge of yellow light from the front door was gone. The door was closed. Every horror movie I'd ever half-watched flickered behind my eyes. I grabbed the knob and twisted. It didn't budge. Locked. "Persephone," I yelled, slamming my palm against the wood. "Open the door." No answer. The porch light hummed. The wind hissed. I pounded harder. "Persephone, Connor, open the door right now." Nothing. For a second, panic exploded in my chest so fast I saw white. My hand went into my coat pocket on instinct, fingers closing on the key Celeste had given me. I yanked it out, jammed it at the lock, missed, swore, tried again. My fingers were clumsy with cold. The key scraped the paint before finally finding the slot. The lock turned with a stiff click. I shoved the door open and stumbled in, breath clouding in the warm air, heart slamming so hard my vision fuzzed at the edges. The kids were in the parlor, exactly where I'd told them to be, sitting side by side on the couch, small back straight, hands knotted together in their laps. Both of them staring at something out of my line of sight, faces pale and wide-eyed. I followed their gaze. The candelabra was no longer on the mantel. It was on the little end table right next to the Christmas tree. All 6 candles were lit. The flames were tall and bright, not gentle little flickers, but hungry tongues of fire. One of the tapers had bent slightly, sagging toward the dry artificial branches. For a heartbeat, I just stared, not understanding what I was seeing. The flames reflected in the big front window, so it looked like there were fires both inside and out. Then my stomach dropped. "What the hell are you doing?" I roared, crossing the room in 3 strides. I grabbed the candelabra by its base. It was hotter than it had any right to be, the brass warmed by the candles. I hissed through my teeth and held it away from the tree. My breath made the flames dance. I blew them out hard, one after another, until thin strings of smoke curled from each blackened wick. The smell of burned wick and hot wax filled the air. It lay heavy and oily on my tongue. I set the candelabra back on the mantel harder than I meant, the base ringing dully against the wood. My hand throbbed where I'd grabbed it. I turned on my kids, anger and fear mixing into something ugly in my voice. "What were you thinking? Look how close that was to the tree. You could have set the whole house on fire." Persephone flinched back like I'd hit her. Connor's lower lip trembled. I didn't," Persephone stammered. Her voice had shrunk to a little squeak. "I didn't touch it." "Oh, really?" I snapped. "So it just grew legs and walked over there by itself?" Her eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That was always her thing. When she got overwhelmed, the words stuck. "Did you light those candles?" I demanded, stabbing a finger toward the mantel. "Yes or no?" She shook her head frantically, blonde hair swinging. "Oh, so Connor did it?" I said, sarcastic and cruel in a way I immediately hated. My 4-year-old son decided to climb up there, lug a 10-pound candle holder down, and light it, huh? Connor whispered. "I didn't." "Then who did it?" I shouted. Nobody answered. For a second, the house felt big in the wrong way. Like there was a lot of space between where I was standing and where my voice was reaching. I huffed through my nose and stomped into the kitchen, my heart still slamming. I yanked open drawers until I found what I knew had to be there. A long butane lighter, the kind for grills and fire pits. I held it up when I came back into the parlor. "Is this what you used?" I demanded. Persephone's gaze flicked to it, then back to my face. Her chin trembled. "I didn't," she whispered. "That's enough." I snapped. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is serious. That tree is bone dry. One candle falls, the whole room's an inferno in 30 seconds. This isn't funny." I shoved the lighter into my pocket. It banged against my thigh with comforting solidity, something controllable. My anger was burning itself out already, leaving behind a thick layer of guilt. But instead of dealing with that, I grabbed for control. "Both of you bed. Right now." "But we didn't make cookies," Connor said, voice wobbling. "Not tonight," I said. "We'll do it tomorrow. Upstairs. Let's go." Persephone burst into tears the second she stood up, loud, gasping sobs. She ran past me, hands over her face, feet pounding up the stairs. I picked Connor up. He clung around my neck, hot tears soaking into my collar. "Are you mad at me?" he asked. I exhaled shakily. "I'm not mad at you, buddy," I said. "I just got scared. That's all." "Is Santa still gonna come?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, hoisting him higher on my hip. "Santa's not scared of anything. He'll be here. Don't worry." I turned to glance back at the parlor before we went up. The candelabra sat where I'd put it, dark and harmless. The tree's lights blinked placidly. The fake presents around its base looked suddenly sinister, like props. As I started up the stairs, Connor lifted his head off my shoulder and waved past me, toward the parlor. "Good night," he said. "Who are you saying good night to?" I asked. He hesitated, then stuck his thumb in his mouth. "Nobody," he mumbled. I wanted to press, but I was tired, and he was heavy, and my hand hurt, and my brain was still rattled by the scream outside. So I let it go. Upstairs, the kids' room looked softer. Their little suitcases by the wall, their backpacks tangled together, their pajamas tossed on the beds from earlier explorations. Persephone was on her bed, face buried in the pillow, shoulders shaking. Her angel pajama top was twisted around her middle. I set Connor down on his bed and helped him change into his pajamas, my voice flat and businesslike. I didn't say anything to Persephone. I didn't know how to climb down from the anger without looking weak. I tucked Connor in, pulled the blanket up to his chin. His eyes were already drooping. "Good night," I said. "Sleep. Santa's got a tight schedule." He smiled sleepily. "Night, Daddy." I looked over at Persephone. Her door was open. Hers and Connor's side of the room, separated by a little gap between the beds and a shared nightstand. She was curled up on her side, back to me, covers pulled over her head. "Good night," I said stiffly. She didn't answer. I stood there a second, waiting, hoping. Nothing. The lump in my throat made it feel like I was swallowing stones. I left the room, pulling the door mostly shut behind me, leaving it open just a crack. Back in the master bedroom, everything looked the same as it had earlier. Same neat bed, same bland art, same soft glow from the bedside lamp. I sat on the edge of the bed and took my phone out. My wife had texted an hour ago. First incision started. "Everyone's stable. Wish you were here to hold my coffee." I typed, "Wish you were here to yell at our children with me." Then deleted it. Then typed, "Kids almost burned the place down with a candle holder. All good now, though. How's it going?" Then deleted that too. I ended up sending, "We miss you. Kids are in bed. Love you." 3 dots appeared for a second like she was typing back, then vanished. Probably scrubbed in, gloved, unable to get to her phone. Doing something real, while I was here being an asshole to a 7-year-old. I lay back on the bed without meaning to. The pillow smelled faintly of detergent and someone else's shampoo. The house creaked around me in small, adjusting ways. The rule sheet floated through my mind again. Rule 2, do not leave interior doors open while you sleep. I'd left the kids' door cracked. I left my door open. "Well, come arrest me," I muttered. Guilt gnawed at me. Persephone's face when I'd yelled, her little hands shaking, the way she hadn't defended herself, just shut down. She's 7, I thought. She's a kid on Christmas Eve in a strange house. Of course, she wants to play with candles. Of course, she doesn't fully get it. The logic didn't make it better. It just made me feel like a bigger piece of shit. After what felt like forever, but was probably 10 minutes, I pushed myself up. Go fix it, I told myself. You screwed up. Go apologize. You don't get to sit here and sulk and then pretend it never happened in the morning. I noticed as soon as I stood that my bedroom door was closed. I hadn't closed it. I was sure I hadn't. I left it wide open so I could hear if the kids needed me. Now it was shut. Not all the way tight, but almost. I stared at it, hand hovering over the knob. My skin prickled. Houses settle, I told myself. Air pressure. Furnace kicked on, draft pushed it. Sure, fine, whatever. That was the answer. I opened it and stepped into the hall. The carpet felt slightly cooler under my bare feet. The house's sound seemed louder now that I was listening for them. The hum of the heater, the occasional soft tick of wood. At the far end, the kids' room glowed with a thin stripe of light at the bottom of the door. I walked down, careful not to step on any of the toys they'd already somehow scattered in the hallway. Their door opened easily, the hinges a little stiff but not noisy. Connor was asleep already, one arm thrown over his head, mouth open. His lashes made 2 dark crescents on his cheeks. Persephone was curled on her side, still awake, still crying, but softer now. Those exhausted little whimpers that happen when a kid has run out of scream. Hey, I said gently, sitting on the edge of her bed. She tensed, then peeked out from under the blanket, cheeks blotchy, eyes red and huge. I'm sorry, I said. The words felt clumsy, but I forced them out. I shouldn't have yelled like that. You scare me, that's all. The candles, the tree. It freaked me out. But that's not your fault the way I made it sound. Okay. She sniffed hard, wiped her nose on the back of her hand. I didn't do it, she whispered. Something in her voice, flat, absolute, made me pause. I believe you. I lied automatically. She stared at me. Kids have a sixth sense for bullshit. Her lower lip trembled again. I do, I said, trying to make myself believe it as I said it. I'm trying to. I don't understand what happened, but I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm just really tired, and I miss Mom, and I got scared about the fire. Her eyes flooded again, but this time it wasn't that crushed, guilty look. It was something else. Relief, maybe, or just the relief of finally being seen. Do you want to sleep in my bed tonight? I asked. Would that make you feel better? She nodded so fast her hair bounced. Okay, I said. Let me grab your brother, too. You can both bunk with me. We'll have a sleepover. Will Santa know where we are? She asked, voice tiny. Santa's smarter than me, I said. He'll find us. I stood and walked around to Connor's bed, carefully scooping him up. He murmured something unintelligible and clung to my neck, his body going limp again almost immediately. Come on, I said to Persephone. She slid out of bed, dragging her blanket with her like a cape, and grabbed my free hand. Her palm was small and hot. We walked down the hallway together, past the thermostat, past the bland art, past the closed closet doors. The light from the master bedroom spilled into the hall like a warm puddle. Inside, I set Connor down on one side of the bed and flipped the blankets back for Persephone on the other. She climbed in, blanket and all, sticking close to the middle. I got in last, the mattress dipping under our combined weight. For a minute, it was just breathing. 3 different rhythms. The heater humming through the vents. The faint rattle of a window somewhere. Dad, Persephone whispered in the dark. Yeah. Do you think there's ghosts here? She asked. Not scared exactly, just curious. I swallowed. When I was a kid, people said there were, I said. They said this house was haunted, but people say that about anything they don't understand. Mostly it was just an old, empty house. What do they say happened? She asked, barely audible. I thought of the candelabra, the candles, the scream outside. Just stories, I said. Kids talking. I'll tell you in the morning. Okay, when it's light out. Scary stories are less scary in the daylight. She hummed thoughtfully. "I heard someone," she whispered then. "Before you came down, I heard someone talking to Connor, and they sounded wrong." A chill slid down my spine. "Probably the TV from next door," I said. "Or the heater. Houses make weird sounds." "There's no next door," she reminded me. "There's just woods." I couldn't argue with that. "Try to sleep," I said instead. "We're safe. I'm right here." She shifted closer. Her hand found mine under the blanket and squeezed. I squeezed back. My eyes burned. The exhaustion wasn't just physical now. It was this heavy mental fog, full of half-formed thoughts and what-ifs. I lay there listening to their breathing even out, one after the other. The bed was warm. The house hummed. Somewhere downstairs, something creaked. I must have drifted. That blurry, gray edge of sleep where your thoughts don't quite make sense anymore, where you start to dream in little fits. The last clear thing I remember thinking was, "Press the smoke detector test. Don't forget. You promised." I opened my eyes again, groggy, and looked at the clock on the nightstand. It was later, but not that much. The house was still too bright. I'd forgotten to turn off the lamp. The kids were two warm lumps on either side of me. "Shit," I muttered under my breath. I eased myself out from under the covers, careful not to jostle them. The hallway was dimmer, the light from the bedroom spilling out behind me. The rest of the house felt like it was holding its breath. At the top of the stairs, above the landing, was the smoke detector. A white disc on the ceiling, unremarkable. I stood on the second step, stretched up, and pressed the little round button in the center. There was a half-second pause, like the house had to inhale. Then the alarm shrieked. It was impossibly loud in that narrow space, a pure, high-pitched scream that drilled straight into my skull and made my gums ache. I flinched and dragged my hand back, cursing. Okay, I said out loud, even though nobody could hear me. "Works. Fantastic." After a moment, it cut off. The silence rushed back in, even thicker than before. I went back to the bedroom. Both kids had stirred at the alarm, but only a little. Connor rolled over with a small frown. Persephone mumbled something about too loud, then went still again. I slid back under the covers between them, heart still thudding from the noise. "See," I whispered to nobody in particular, following the rules. "Happy now?" The house didn't answer. I closed my eyes again, and that was the last peaceful moment we had in that place. I wish I could say I sensed it coming. You always hear that in stories, right? I woke up with a feeling, like your body knows before your brain does. But the truth is, I went under hard. Kids on either side, cheap white duvet, heater humming, my brain finally just shut up and shut down. I don't know how long I was out before the first weird thing happened. I was dreaming about our house back home, except it wasn't really our house. It was this one wearing our house like a costume. Same couch, same coffee table, but the walls were too tall and the windows were wrong. The kids were sitting on the floor, surrounded by wrapping paper, and every time they opened a present, it was just the same thing over and over, a long, white candle. They started laughing about it. At first, it was regular kid laughing, then it got higher, too sharp, until it wasn't their laugh anymore. It was that smoke detector shriek, and the room started filling with smoke, and in the dream, I was trying to stand up, but something had my ankles. I woke up with my heart already pounding. The room was dark now. I must have turned the bedside lamp off at some point, or maybe I'd done it half asleep and forgotten. The curtains were cracked just enough that a slice of cold moonlight cut across the far wall. Persephone was a lump on my right side, facing me, hair tangled across her face. Connor was on my left, starfished, one leg thrown over my stomach like he tried to climb over me in his sleep and given up halfway. Everything felt normal for about 3 seconds. Then I realized two things at once. First, my bedroom door was closed again. Second, there was someone breathing in the room who wasn't me or my kids. It was subtle, a tiny extra rhythm, just a hair out of sync. Not the big, open-mouthed sleep breaths my kids did. Smaller, shallower, like someone trying not to be noticed. I held my breath. The sound continued. I turned my head slowly, trying not to jostle the mattress. The air felt heavy, like when a storm's about to break. The moonlight strip across the wall caught the edge of the doorframe. The breathing was coming from near the door. "Hello," I whispered. The breathing stopped instantly. Every hair on my arms lifted. I stared at the door until my eyes watered. I half expected to see it move, or the handle twitch, or a shadow cross the light, but there was nothing. Just the soft tick of the heater cycling and my heart punching against my ribs. I told myself, again, air pressure. Houses make sounds. I'd woken from a nightmare, so my brain was still in fight or flight mode. That was all, but I couldn't lie there and do nothing. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood up slowly, careful not to step on Connor's foot where it dangled off the edge. The floor was cold under my bare feet. I padded over to the door, listening. Nothing. Silence. That weird, dense silence houses have at night. I put my hand on the knob. It was cool, not hot. If you've ever done a fire drill, you know that stupid detail sticks in your head. Feel the door first. Don't open it if it's hot. I opened it just a crack and peeked out. The hallway was empty. Dim. The nightlight from a kid's room down the hall threw a puddle of weak yellow onto the carpet. Everything else was in shadow. No misterias brides. No monsters. See, I whispered to myself. Nothing. But the fact that the door had closed itself, again, nagged at me. Rule 2. Do not leave interior doors open while you sleep. It popped into my head completely uninvited, like someone had whispered it right in my ear. "Okay," I muttered. Message received. Doors closed. I looked back at the bed. Persephone had rolled on her back, mouth open, breathing loud enough now that my brain could label the sound. Connor was snoring a little, one hand twitching. It looked so small. I stepped into the hallway, pulling the door gently almost closed behind me, leaving just a sliver so I'd hear if they called out. I walked down to their room on autopilot, checking without really thinking. The door to their room was open about 6 inches. The nightlight inside was one of those little plastic things shaped like a moon. It cast a soft glow up the wall. I pushed the door open. Their beds were empty, of course, just wrinkles in the sheets from earlier. Persephone's stuffed bunny lay on the floor, face down. The closet door was ajar, a triangle of dark inside. Something about that bothered me more than it should have. I walked over and nudged the closet door with my toe, so it swung fully open. Inside was exactly what you'd expect. Extra blankets on the top shelf, hangers, a luggage rack, a laundry basket. No ghost kid crouched in the corner. No eye staring back at me. Get a grip. I turned to leave, and something white on the floor by the dresser caught my eye. A little square of paper. I bent and picked it up. It was a sticky note. Old enough the bright color had faded to a sick pale yellow. The adhesive strip had gone completely useless. It must have fallen from somewhere. There was handwriting on it in blue ink. Slanted, fast. Check batteries. Kids' room, 12/24. The date wasn't finished. Just 12/24 with no year. Underneath, in smaller letters, someone had written, "Don't forget like last time." My mouth went dry. I looked around the room, at the smoke detector above the door. It was off-center, like it had been added later after the fact. "Okay," I said, my voice sounding thin in the empty room. "Nope. No thank you." I put the sticky note on the dresser, weighed it down with the little ceramic lamp so it wouldn't go sliding off again. I backed out of the room and pulled the door shut behind me. Rule 2, I thought again. Closed doors. Fire safety. The heater kicked on, a blast of warmer air from the vent near the floor. It smelled faintly like hot dust and something else. Something sharp and faintly sweet, like the ghost of candle smoke. I walked back to the master bedroom, resisting the urge to look over my shoulder. My door, which I'd left nearly closed, was now fully, perfectly shut. I stopped dead. I'd been gone maybe a minute. 2 tops. "Okay," I whispered. Seriously? I turned the knob and pushed it open so fast it banged lightly against the wall. The room looked exactly as I'd left it. 2 lumps in the bed, the strip of moonlight a little lower now. My phone on the nightstand, screen dark. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. On purpose. All the way. The click sounded too loud. I crawled back into bed, easing between their little warm bodies, pulling the blankets up around us like we were building a fort. Whatever was going on with the doors, I told myself I'd deal with it in the morning. I'd call Celeste, make some joke about the house being overeager with its own rules. Maybe there was a draft from the attic. Maybe the hinges were old. More than anything, I just wanted to get out of there in the morning. Drive into town, spend the day with my parents, pick up my wife, come back just to get our crap, and leave. Let someone else chase drunk teenagers in the trees. Never renting anything with historic in the title again, I mumbled. At some point, I drifted off again. I don't remember the moment it happened. The house's noises melted into the background. My brain finally stopped trying to solve things and just went dark. The next time I woke up, there was no question about what had pulled me out of sleep. The smoke alarm went off like the sky ripping open. Same shriek as before, but this time it didn't cut off after a second. It kept going, a continuous, hysterical wail that made my heart slam so hard it physically hurt. My eyes snapped open. Everything was wrong. The room wasn't just dark, it was orange. Light flickered across the ceiling in wild patches. The air was thicker, hotter, and my throat burned on the first breath I sucked in. I shot upright, coughing, eyes stinging. Persephone bolted up beside me, hair wild, eyes huge. "Daddy," she choked. Connor started crying immediately, that panicked animal kid cry when they wake up and the world isn't what it's supposed to be. "It's okay." I lied automatically, already swinging my legs off the bed. "We're okay. We have to get out. Right now." The shriek of the alarm pounded off the walls. Under it, there was another sound, low and alive. The roar of fire. It's not like in movies, where it's this neat little crackle. Real fire in a closed space sounds like some giant thing breathing fast. A rushing, whooshing, gulping sound. I staggered to the door. The knob was warm. Not burning, but not cool. "Don't touch anything," I barked at the kids. "Get off the bed. Stay right behind me." "Daddy, what's happening?" Connor sobbed. "Santa's doing a test run," I said, because my brain is an asshole even when everything is on fire. "Come on." I opened the bedroom door and heat slapped me across the face like an open palm. The hallway was full of smoke. Not thick enough yet to hide everything, but enough that it blurred the edges of the walls, turned the air gray. The ceiling had a blackish layer creeping along it like someone had poured ink up there. Down the hall, toward the stairs, the glow was brighter. Orange, pulsing. Persephone coughed beside me. "It hurts," she cried, clutching her throat. "Stay low," I said, dropping into a half crouch. We go to the stairs, down, and out the front door. That's it. That's the whole plan. Hands on the wall if you can't see. I grabbed Connor under one arm. He wrapped his arms around my neck so tight I could barely breathe. I grabbed Persephone's hand with my other, squeezing hard. "Don't let go," I said. "No matter what. Do you understand me?" She nodded, tears streaking clean lines down her soot-dusted cheeks. We stepped into the hallway. The smoke got thicker instantly. Hot, bitter, full of this plastic, chemical tang that made my eyes water and my chest feel too tight. The shriek of the upstairs alarm was joined by another from downstairs, just out of sync like some horrible duet. We moved forward, shoulders hunched. The carpet under my feet was hot. Somewhere under it, I could feel vibrations, faint and terrible, like the house itself was shuddering. As we approached the top of the stairs, I got my first real look at the parlor. Flames had swallowed the Christmas tree. It wasn't just burning, it was a pillar. The fake needles, the plastic ornaments, the wrap around the lights. Everything had become fuel. Fire climbed it in twisting columns, licking the ceiling, racing across it in a flash of orange fingers. The curtains by the front window were on fire too, sheets of flame climbing up and sideways. The couch was starting to smolder, fabric blackening, stuffing showing through. I watched, helpless, as a chunk of flaming ornament fell from the tree, hit the rug, and rolled, leaving a smear of fire behind that immediately started spreading. The candelabra on the mantel was silhouetted against all of it. For half a second, I saw it there, dark and solid, lit from behind by the blaze, just like it had looked in my head when I imagined it earlier. Something crashed somewhere downstairs, glass popping in its frame. I didn't have time to stand there and try to figure out how it had started. Later, I'd replay it over and over. Was it the tree lights shorting? Old wiring? Something left plugged in? Did one of the kids sneak down and play with the lighter? Did the candelabra light itself? Did it all just decide to go to hell at once? In that moment, all that mattered was getting past it. "Come on," I shouted over the alarm. "Stay close." We stepped onto the top stair, and that's when I heard it. "Help me." The voice came from behind us, from the kids' room we just left. I froze mid-step. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. It was a child's voice. Hi, desperate. It sounded exactly like you'd imagine a kid would sound trapped in a burning house. "Help me, please. It's hot." I twisted just enough to look back down the hallway, my heart slamming against my ribs so hard it hurt. The door to the kids' room, the one I'd pulled almost shut, the one I'd seen closed earlier, was closed tight now. Smoke seeped out around the top in thin gray tendrils. The voice came again, muffled but clear. "I can't get out. Help me." For a split second, my brain tried to do the math. 2 kids in my arms, breathing, alive, right here. One kid-sized voice, screaming from a room that should be empty. Something in me flinched in 2 directions at once. "What was that?" Persephone gasped, twisting toward the hallway. My body made the decision before my mind did. I turned away from the bedroom door. "Don't look," I said, pulling her forward. "Keep going. Don't look back." "But there's nobody in that room," I said. Just us. Just us. Do you hear me? Move." It felt like physically ripping myself away from something. Behind us, the voice screamed again. Higher this time. "Raw, please. It hurts." I didn't go. I didn't even try. There are versions of this story where I say I did, where I talk about throwing myself at that door, breaking it down, smoke pouring over me like water. But that would be a lie. I chose my kids. We went down the stairs. The heat got worse with every step. The smoke was thicker here, rolling along the ceiling, starting to come down in waves. I could feel Connor's small body shaking against my side. Persephone was coughing so hard, she kept stumbling. I practically dragged her, her hands slippery in mine. "Cover your mouth," I said, tugging my t-shirt up over my nose with the same hand I was using to hold Connor. "Like this. Sephi, use your sleeve." She did, eyes streaming. At the bottom of the stairs, the parlor was a war zone. The tree was collapsing in on itself, flaming branches dropping like burning bones. The coffee table was on fire now, the rug completely engulfed. The wall by the front window was just solid flame. Our path to the front door was a narrow strip of knot fire between the base of the stairs and the entryway. "Run," I said. "Do not fall. Do not let go." We ran. The heat on my face was insane. It felt like being too close to a bonfire, but multiplied by 10, coming at us from multiple directions. My eyebrows felt like they were shriveling. The skin on my arms prickled. We got to the front door. I set Connor down for half a second so I could grab the knob with both hands. It was hot. I wrapped my shirt around my palm and twisted. Nothing. The lock didn't move. I swore, loud and guttural. "Come on." I begged the door like it was a person. "Not now. Please. Not now." Behind me, something in the parlor gave way with a huge crack. Flames shot sideways across the ceiling, searching. The smoke alarm above the door was screaming right in my ear, the light on it blinking furiously. "Daddy," Persephone sobbed. "It's hot. It's hot." "I know," I said, my own voice breaking. "I know. It's going to be okay. I promise. We're getting out." I twisted the lock again. It turned a fraction and then stuck. The stupid laminated rule sheet flashed through my brain like a taunt. "Please keep the front and back doors locked after 5 p.m. Fine I spot, dit greeted. I kept them locked. "Now open, you son of a..." Something small and cold brushed my wrist. For a split second, I thought it was Persephone reaching for me, but her hands were fisted in the back of my shirt. Connor was clinging to my leg. The touch was lower, right on the lock. A little band of cool around my skin, like someone had wrapped fingers there. The knob jerked under my hands. The lock gave suddenly, twisting all the way with a heavy click, and the door flew inward an inch, as if someone outside had pulled it. I didn't stop to question it. I yanked the door open and shoved the kids through ahead of me, practically throwing them onto the porch. Cold air hit us like a slap. My lungs seized at the contrast, then grabbed at it, hauling in huge gulps. We stumbled down the porch steps into the snow-dusted yard, coughing, blinking. I turned back, grabbing both kids and hauling them further away, far enough that falling debris wouldn't hit us if the roof gave. From out here, the house looked like a dollhouse someone was burning from the inside. Flames licked out of the parlor windows in long tongues. Smoke poured from the eaves, thick and black, boiling up into the night sky. You could see the fire moving under the roof, seeking new air. Somewhere behind the house, in the woods, the wind picked up. The tree branches shivered and rattled, the sound almost like whispering. "Daddy," Connor said, clutching my leg. "I am scared." "I know, buddy," I said, dragging them both closer, dropping to my knees so I could wrap my arms around them. "I know. We're out. We're okay. I've got you." Persephone buried her face in my shoulder and sobbed. Her whole body shook, but she was solid. Heavy. Alive. A scream cut across the yard. For a heartbeat, I thought it was that voice again from the kids' room. It wasn't. It was an older woman's voice. "Are you all right?" she shouted. "Oh my God, are you all right?" I turned. An elderly woman in a thick coat was hurrying across the property line, boots slipping in the frozen grass. She had a knit hat pulled down over gray hair, and she was clutching a cell phone in one hand. "I called the fire department," she yelled as she got closer. "They're on their way. Is everyone out?" I nodded, trying to find words. My throat still burned. "We're out," I managed. "We're okay. We're okay." She reached us, put a hand on my shoulder like she needed to steady herself. Her eyes were huge, reflecting the fire. "Is anyone else in there?" she demanded. "Your wife? Anyone?" "No," I said, shaking my head hard. "Just us. My wife's, she's at the hospital. It's just us." "Oh, thank God," she said, sagging a little. Her breath came out in little white bursts. "Thank God." I saw the light, then I saw the smoke. It's happening again, I thought. She cut herself off, pressing a hand to her mouth. Again, I echoed. My voice didn't even sound like mine. "What do you mean again?" She glanced at me, then back at the burning house. The flames had reached the second floor now, orange tongues licking out of the upstairs windows. "You're not from around here?" she asked. "I am," I said hoarsely. "Grew up in town. We used to bike past this place. But it was," I gestured helplessly, "empty, boarded up. I never knew why." Her eyes stayed on the fire, unfocused, like she was seeing something else layered over it. "It's that damn tree," she said, almost to herself. I waited. She swallowed. "It was Christmas Eve," she said quietly. "I was a girl, younger than your one." She nodded toward Persephone, who clung to me, shivering. "The family that lived here then, they had a tree near the parlor window. Real one, of course. Candles on it." I looked at the burning tree through the front window, the shape of it collapsing in on itself. "Candles," I repeated numb. She nodded. "It was the style, you know. Looked pretty until it didn't." She took a shaky breath. "That year, something went wrong. Maybe one candle tipped. Maybe a branch dried out too much. No one ever really knew. The tree caught. The curtains. The whole room went up in minutes." Persephone made a small, wounded sound. I held her tighter. "There were 2 children," the woman went on. "Little boy and a girl. They were in their room upstairs when it started. Their parents tried to get to them, but by the time they realized, it was too late." The roaring of the fire seemed to swell in response, like it was enjoying the story. "What happened?" I asked, even though I knew, even though my brain had already filled in the blanks. "They couldn't get the front door open," she said. Old lock jammed. The father tried the back, but the smoke got him. They say he was still trying to open the kitchen door when a neighbor dragged him out. She shook her head slowly. They never reached those babies. Fire took them. My stomach rolled. I looked up at the second floor at the windows I knew belonged to the kids' room. Flames pulsed behind the glass, not quite breaking through yet. Shadows moved in there, but they were just smoke and heat and my imagination combining into awful shapes. They rebuilt half the house after, the woman said. But no one stayed long after that. Place got a reputation. Things happening. Doors opening and closing on their own. People hearing kids cry when there weren't any. Voices in the woods. You know how people talk. Rule 4 shoved itself to the front of my mind. If you hear voices, cries, or other unusual sounds coming from the woods after dark, please stay inside. The scream that had dragged me off the porch earlier, the one that had led me toward the trees, came back to me, bright and sharp. Over here. What about the voices? I asked, my mouth dry. From the woods. She glanced at me. You heard them, she said. It wasn't a question. I hesitated, then nodded. There's an old story, she said, about the father. They say he swore he heard someone calling for help outside that night. Out in the yard, then the woods. He went out front to see. By the time he realized there was no one there and came back, the door had swung shut, the lock jammed, and the fire had cut off the stairs. I stared at her, feeling like I'd slipped sideways out of time. He left, I said slowly. He left his kids inside to go help someone. She winced. That's how the story goes, she said. I don't know how much is rumor, how much is true. People like to add things. She sighed, a sound full of years. But I know this. That house has been empty more than it's been full since then. Every time someone tries to live there, something happens. Pipes burst, wiring goes bad, people get sick. They say the little ones never really left. She frowned, like she was only just now hearing herself. I shouldn't be telling you this now. I am sorry. When I saw you run out with your two. Her eyes filled with tears. She reached out and touched Persephone's hair, Connor's head. You got them out, she said. That's what matters. You did what he couldn't. The kids clung to me silently, faces buried in my coat. Somewhere down the road, a siren started up, then another layering over it, getting closer. We stood there, the three of us and this stranger, watching the house burn. From somewhere inside, upstairs, there was a dull boom as something exploded. An upstairs window shattered outward, spraying glass and sparks. Fire poured out after it like liquid, clawing at the night air. For a second, in the roar and the glow, I heard it again. Help me. Hi. Desperate. Small. It carried over the sound of the flames, over the approaching sirens, clear enough that my kids heard it too. Persephone's head jerked up. Connor's hands dug into my coat. I stared at the burning windows, at the space where their room had been. There was nobody in there. I knew that in my bones. We were all out here. The house was just a shell now, full of fire and smoke and memories. Did you hear? Persephone started. Sirens. I cut in quickly. They're almost here. We're okay. Just listen for them. They're coming to help. She frowned like she didn't quite believe me, but she let it go. She listened. We all did. The sirens got louder, bright wails cutting through the night until red and blue lights washed across the trees and the neighbor's face and my kid's pale hair. A fire truck roared up the driveway, then another. Men in heavy gear started pouring off, unspooling hoses, shouting to each other. Someone checked us over. A paramedic shone a light in the kids' eyes, listened to their chests, handed me bottled water, and told me to sip. Asked where my wife was. I said, hospital, and they nodded like that answered something. Some official-looking guy asked for a quick version of what happened. I told him what I could without sounding insane. We'd gone to bed. I'd woken up to the alarm and smoke. The tree was on fire. We came downstairs. The door stuck, then opened. I didn't mention the sticky note, or the voice in the woods, or the kid crying from an empty bedroom. He wrote things down on a clipboard, nodded, told me I'd done while getting them out. Told me it can happen fast. These old houses, especially with trees and decorations and all that. Told me we'd probably want to get checked at the ER tonight, just to be sure. Smoke inhalation and all. I nodded and nodded like one of those plastic dashboard dogs, my hands still locked around my kids. At some point, Celeste showed up. Her car screeched to a stop behind the fire trucks, and she ran toward us. No coat, just jeans and a sweater, arms clutched around herself like she was holding herself together. "Oh my God," she said, eyes huge as she took in the house. The flames, the hoses. Oh my God, are you?" She looked at me, at the kids. "You're okay." "We're okay," I said. My voice sounded shredded. "We got out." She looked like she was going to cry. Then she glanced at the fire crew, the neighbor, the paramedics, and shoved it down. "We'll take care of everything," she said, defaulting to manager mode. "We'll get you in a hotel tonight. We'll refund. I'm so sorry." I told them they were pushing it with that tree in an old house. "I'm so sorry. It's not your fault," I heard myself say. And I meant it. "You gave us the rules. We mostly followed them." Her eyes flicked to me at that, sharp. "Mostly," she repeated. "I went outside," I admitted, "when I heard something. Before it all happened. I left them inside for a minute." The door closed, locked. It jammed for a second. She closed her eyes briefly, jaw clenching. I told them that rule wasn't stupid, she muttered. Then, louder, "You came back. That's what matters." I thought about the way the lock had turned under my hand, that little band of cold on my wrist, the bedroom doors closing themselves, the sticky note about batteries, the unfinished date. "How long have you known?" I asked her quietly, so the kids wouldn't hear. About the history. The kids. Her gaze flicked to the old neighbor, who was talking to a firefighter now, hands waving as she pointed at the house. Then back to me. "Long enough," she said. "I grew up here too. My grandma told me not to play near this place. When I got the management contract, I almost said no, but they did such a thorough job fixing it, and they were so sure." She trailed off, shook her head. They wanted the rules in writing. The doors, the candelabra, the tree. "That one about the woods? That's mine." "The voices," I said. She swallowed. "First time I came out here to check on the Reno crew, I heard a little boy laughing in the trees," she said. "There was nobody there. I told myself it was my imagination, but I put the rule in anyway." We watched as a section of the roof collapsed inward with a roar, sending a geyser of sparks into the sky. "Did they tell you?" I asked. "The owners. About the kids?" She nodded once. "They had to," she said. "You have to disclose deaths, even if it was decades ago. Most people don't care, or they think they don't." She looked at my kids, then away. "You'll never stay in a place like this again, will you?" "No," I said. "Probably not." The paramedic came back to say the kids' oxygen levels looked okay, but he still recommended taking them in for a quick check. The nearest hospital wasn't far. I almost laughed at that. Of course it wasn't. My wife was there, somewhere in the building, elbow deep in someone's abdomen, probably with no idea her own family had almost died in a different emergency. "We'll go," I said. "They'll want to see their mom anyway." We loaded into the back of an ambulance more for show than anything. No sirens, just a slow drive into town. The kids leaned against me, limp with exhaustion, faces smudged, eyes half closed. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving a hollow, sort of shaking in its place. Out the back window, the orange glow of the fire faded slowly behind us. On the little bench seat, buckled in with a blanket around my shoulders, I stared at my hands. There were faint red marks on my palm where I'd grabbed the hot brass candelabra. A couple of small blisters already puffing up. My wrist, right where I'd felt that cold touch, had 4 pale, narrow streaks, like someone had pressed tiny fingers there in the middle of the smoke. The paramedic noticed me staring. "You got burned?" he asked. "Just a little," I said. "I'll have him look at it when we get there." I didn't tell him it felt more like a handprint than a burn. At the hospital, everything blurred. Paperwork, nurses clucking, someone recognizing my wife's last name, going, "Oh, you're with Dr. Armitage? She's in or 3 right now." I nodded, numb, and let them put those little clip things on the kids' fingers, listen to more lungs, watch more flashlights and pupils. They were fine. A little soot, a little irritation. No major damage. When my wife finally appeared, still in scrubs with a paper cap half crushed in one hand, she looked like death. Dark circles under her eyes, lines in her forehead that hadn't been there a year ago. She took one look at us and went white. "What happened?" she demanded, reaching for the kids like she expected them to vanish. "The tree caught," I said, too tired to layer anything over it. My voice cracked. House went up. We got out. Her eyes filled. Tears made bright tracks down the spots of dried blood on her cheeks from some surgery I didn't want details about. She hugged the kids so hard they squeaked. Hugged me next, tight, shaking. Later, after they'd given us a room to crash in for a few hours and we'd arranged with Celeste to pick up what little hadn't burned, after the kids finally dropped into something like real sleep, my wife and I sat on the edge of the hospital cot in the half-dark. "You pressed the smoke detector like she said?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. "Earlier. It worked." "She made you a rule book?" Her mouth twitched, like she could almost manage a smile. I told her about the laminated sheet on the fridge, the doors, the candelabra, the voices in the woods, the smoke detector test, the sticky note in the kids' room, the old neighbor's story about the two children. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. It was already insane enough. So they basically built a safety manual around not repeating that night, she said when I was done. No candles, no wandering off, doors closed, alarms tested. "Yeah," I said, and I still almost fucked it up. I went outside. I left them. The door jammed. "But you came back," she said. "You got them into your bed. That's why they weren't in that room." I kept seeing that closed bedroom door in my head, the smoke leaking around it, the voice from behind it, shrieking like its throat was on fire. "I heard someone in there," I said. "I know how that sounds, but I did, when the house was already burning. They were begging. I didn't open the door." "You couldn't have," she said firmly. "You'd all be dead. Those were old floorboards. That hallway went like kindling. You made the right call. Tell that to whoever was screaming," I muttered. She was quiet for a second. "If those kids are stuck," she said carefully, "maybe that's all they know. That moment, maybe it just plays on a loop. Doesn't mean you left someone to die tonight. You brought two kids out that lived." I thought about Connor waving at the parlor, saying goodnight to someone. Persephone hearing a voice that sounded wrong. "Do you think they did it?" I asked. "The old kids, the candelabra, the doors, the lock, everything." She rubbed her eyes. "I cut into people for a living," she said. "I'll let you be the expert on ghosts." "If it was them," I said slowly, "I don't know if they were trying to hurt us or help us." She sighed. "Maybe both," she said. "Maybe neither. Maybe they don't know the difference anymore. Trauma does weird shit." We sat there for a while, listening to the beeps and murmurs of the hospital around us. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried, steady and outraged, very much alive. I kept seeing that brass candelabra in my head, the way it had looked on the mantle, flames haloing it. The way the candles had been perfect when we arrived, wicks untouched. The way I'd blown them out, anger hot in my chest, wax smoke curling toward the ceiling. Rule 3. Never move the brass candelabra from the parlor mantle, and do not light the candles. We'd broken that one, technically, or something had. Rule 2. Do not leave interior doors open while you sleep. Those doors that kept closing themselves, with or without me. And when the fire came, my kids were behind another door. My door, not in their room, not where it had happened last time. Rule 4. If you hear voices, cries, or other unusual sounds coming from the woods after dark, please stay inside. That one had almost taken me out. Almost repeated everything exactly. But I'd stopped. Something in me had recognized the wrongness and turned back. Rule 5. Press the test button on the upstairs smoke detector. Without that shrieking, I don't know if I would have woken up in time. The fire had moved so fast. Faster than it made sense for it to. Like it was catching up. And Rule 1. The locks. Keep the doors locked after 5 p.m. The same locks that had stuck once decades ago and trapped a family inside. The same locks that had stuck for me, until a little cold hand wrapped around my wrist and turned with mine. I don't have a neat way to end this. There's no lesson here. No clever wrap-up. The house burned. They knocked down what was left a month later. Insurance, liability, all that. I saw the photos online. Empty foundation, black char marks on the dirt, a ring of untouched trees around it like witnesses who couldn't decide if they were relieved or disappointed. We got a full refund plus extra. Celeste cried on the phone when she told me. The owner sent us a long, formal email full of deep regrets and incident under review, and guest safety our highest priority. My kids don't like Christmas trees anymore. We do a little fake one on a table in the corner now, with those LED lights that don't get hot. No candes. Ever. Sometimes, when it's late and the house is quiet and the heater kicks on, I'll hear a creak in the hallway and my whole body will go rigid. I'll get up, check the kids' doors. They're always closed now. I make sure of it. And sometimes, if the wind is just right, it sounds like somebody calling from far away. Not words. Not help me or over here. Just a thin, ragged shape of sound, like whatever's left out there doesn't quite remember how to say it. I stay inside. I keep the doors locked. I test the alarms. And when I tuck my kids into bed, I close their door on my own, and I press my hand to the wood for a second and whisper, stay like I'm talking to a dog. I don't know who I'm talking to. The living. The dead. Whoever's listening.